Welcome back to the Darius Gant Show. I'm your host, Darius Gant, as well as founder and CEO of Tesoro AI, where we help innovative founders and executives build AI solutions and AI teams. On this podcast, we focus on cutting-edge technology, more specifically artificial intelligence. By getting up close and personal with visionary founders and executives, we get to do a deep dive into the real-world problems that AI is solving. Not only that, we get to follow them on their journey to building AI startups or solutions within the enterprise. In this episode, we sit with Tiffany Ricks. Tiffany is the founder and CEO of a company by the name of HacWare. HacWare is an award-winning cybersecurity company that provides advanced cybersecurity education to combat phishing attacks. What's interesting about this episode is Tiffany's approach to building and launching HacWare. When most people think about building a company, building a startup, that is, the first thought is to build software. Tiffany actually took the approach of building HacWare as a services company first, and then using that as a basis to build software to serve her clients. There are a lot of benefits to taking this approach, and we'll dive in with Tiffany to figure out what are some of those benefits. If you or your team is considering building an AI solution, be sure to reach out to the team here at Tesoro AI. We've assembled the leading experts in both data science and machine learning. So whether it's AI strategy, custom AI software development, data labeling, or staff augmentation, we've got a strong team here that has your back. So head over to www.tesoroai.com. All right, without further ado, let's hop into the show and hear from Tiffany. All right, thanks everyone for joining us again today. And Tiffany, thank you for making time to chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Darius. I think this is going to be a fun discussion.
You and me both. So you have an interesting background, right? For most people, it's maybe they didn't start in computer science, like with a computer science background or anything related to AI, found their way. I mean, it seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from day one, back to your college days, you were focused on a career in computer science. I'm curious what sparked that interest for you.
Yeah, you're totally right, Darius. I knew at an early age what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to solve problems. I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I found the tool to help me do that in high school. So I found computer science as a way to solve problems, as a way to do that at scale. I just was very fascinated with technology in high school, and then it grew as I went through college. But it really started from me having this passion of having all these ideas and needing a tool to help me build them and solve a problem. So the ideas pushed me to technology, and then that opened up a Pandora's box.
Yeah, very interesting. So was it a family member who was already involved in the tech scene, or did you come across some type of mentor, or maybe even like a TV show where you were like, look, this seems like this is actually a tool that I can use to help me to further some of the dreams I have around entrepreneurship?
It was none of those things. I don't have a cool story. I mean, I grew up in an urban area, what they call an urban area. I grew up in an area where my family, friends didn't know anything about technology, didn't know anything about, in Dallas, Texas, really Fort Worth, Texas, which is a suburb of Dallas. And they didn't know anything about technology, a software engineer, and many of my friends and family still don't know what I do. And it wasn't anything that I watched on TV that made me want to learn more about technology. I think it just happened because I was this awkward, Issa Rae says, the awkward black girl. I was just this awkward girl who was trying to find my place because I didn't talk like my friends or family. I didn't think like my friends and family. I love basketball, but I end up finding, like, I took a class in high school that was like a technology class. And it really helped me see where I fit because I saw kids that talked like me. They were awkward. We understood each other's little quirky jokes. And I was like, okay, I think, and then I was good at technology. So I just figured, and it made me feel good. So I just wanted to keep learning more and building upon that. So it started in a technology class in high school, but really just trying to find where I fit in
Yeah.
this world.
Super interesting, right? Like I was one of those who was like, look, I'm gonna be the next Michael Jordan, right? And my whole high school, college was focused on that. I stumbled into like accounting was my first field. I stumbled into that just because I took a class. It was easy, and they're like, you can get a job before you graduate. Oh, okay, cool. So I'm always interested in folks who early on you're like, this is the path. And I think for you, you've had a number of leadership roles and opportunity to not only build, but to lead teams, and just having built up that level of kind of expertise in a space is lended well for you back in the day when you started as like the awkward black girl, right? But now it's like, well, tech is cool now. So we don't want to be bankers anymore. We want to build tech companies.
No, and I knew that that wasn't going to last long. I would always tell my friends, yeah, I'm going to be a cool nerd. I am a cool nerd. But like you, Darius, I wanted to be the first girl in the NBA. I love basketball, but I knew that I wasn't going to really that wasn't really going to pan out. So I think technology is what I decided to put all my time and resource into to getting good at. So it's sort of like that made more sense to me.
Okay. And so you took that path in undergrad. What post the educational experience around tech? What did you do professionally after school?
Well, I started my first company when I was in college, and that's where I got a lot of experience with technology and building a product that people can use and understanding the marketing, the sales process. I learned a lot of that through my own company. But I did decide I wanted to work in corporate America, and I worked for one of the largest defense contractors where they build software, they build planes, a lot of surveillance and reconnaissance technology for the United States Air Force and the Navy. And there is where I learned how to build a enterprise solution, how to lead teams, how to develop your team. And I also got into security and cybersecurity through that experience. And so, yeah, that was probably a great experience where I just learned from a large corporate standpoint, how do they build these products? How do they recruit great talent? And how do they sell this product to customers?
Okay. And so at what point, right, did you transition back into entrepreneurship? Your company today is HacWare without the K.
Yeah.
Uh, but was that immediately after that corporate experience?
Yes. While I was in corporate America, I was an entrepreneur. So I wanted to I didn't think that I was going to stay in corporate America as long as I was. But while I was there, I started two other companies. They both were tech companies. They were mobile apps, and I had to hire a team to sort of handle the operation side while I still was in corporate America. And that didn't give me the satisfaction that I needed to really take this company and become a massive company the way I wanted it to be.
Mhm.
And so, towards the tail end of working in corporate America, I realized I wanted to leave, but I didn't have any ideas. But I knew that I could build innovative solutions. And so I started out building a consultancy. And the consultancy was a cybersecurity and software development consultancy. So we identified vulnerabilities, provide ethical hacking solutions to help them understand where their holes were, where a bad actor could get in. And then, so that was the problem. And then the software problem side was, let's solve that solution or solve that vulnerability with building a software solution. Then what happened after?
Now, was this HacWare or was this a different business?
It was HacWare the consultancy. Yeah, so it was HacWare the consultancy. And then in February or in October of 2018, I realized, based on the contracts that we were having from previous engagements, that we need to build a product that focused on the human vulnerability, because I saw this time and time again by working as an ethical hacker for our clients and seeing that their employees were easy to fall for phishing attacks. I decided I wanted to build a product that could leverage learning from real phishing intelligence and automate educating users about these attacks in real time. And so that's when I launched and pivot to HacWare, this AI-driven security awareness company. And we've been we have companies using us throughout North America. And yeah, we've been backed by Techstars New York, Cyber NYC, and we're optimistic on how we're going to change cybersecurity.
Yeah, definitely some good support to have there for you as a startup. What interests me is the transition from services business to software business. And I think a lot of people who consider their own startup idea, they skip over services, which can be a huge opportunity in its own right, but skip over services and go immediately to let me build a product. And I think that there are some benefits to building a service. I would love your perspective on some of the benefits that actually having a service business help you with as before transitioning into actually being a product-driven company.
Yeah, I think the service side is you really get to become a extension of your client's company. So you really get to see their problems at you get to see the problems each company is facing, and you get to see how they are the same, but you also get to see how they're different. And so when you talk about building a product-driven company, you have to really understand like what problem you're solving. You have to understand it better than your perspective better than anyone else. And so when you build a service-driven company, you're really able to get an insight into all of your potential customers' problem, and because you're an extension of it. And so I think it's very important when you think about product development, finding ways to understand the problem in a way that none of your competitors can is important. And I did it by having a service-based business first.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting. Like the two major benefits I see is what you mentioned, right? It's just understanding the pain point, right? What problem should I be solving versus trying to find a market for something you've built. You're finding a product, a solution to a problem that already exists, which, okay, now I have people people in relationships, right, that I can naturally leverage as I sell this product, right? But the other side of it is you have some revenues, some income that you can put into the initial stages of actually building the product versus having to say, and I don't know what your process was, but having to say immediately, look, I need to raise this family and friends around so I can, get an MVP done, right?
No, you're 100% correct, Darius. That was definitely a benefit. That service revenue we were able to reinvest that into our product. So we were a bootstrap business, we were revenue positive, and we were able to reinvest that into our business where I didn't have to think about going to raise a friends and family round. And I don't even have friends and family that I can raise money from.
Yeah.
So that was something that was very, very instrumental to us having some early traction on the product.
So artificial intelligence, right? HacWare is now an AI-based company. For you, how did you, like we know for the product that you built, you had already identified a market. How did you then decide, well, AI would help me to accelerate or enable the solution that I'm actually building?
Yeah, it came from, again, the services side of our business. I knew, I think I had heard Mark Cuban in the early days mention everyone needs to start thinking about artificial intelligence, incorporating that into your business. And as a service-based company, we had a couple clients that didn't have any skill sets around artificial intelligence. And it was something that I was self-teaching myself, and our team was getting ready because we had listened to what Mark Cuban was talking about. And I totally believed that that was the future of work. And we got exposed to it by just working with our clients, building some AI solutions for them. And then when the light bulb hit about what we could do with HacWare, I had already had that experience of doing that for clients. And so I just took what we did for clients, and then I saw a problem and I thought we could use some of this machine learning technology or these machine learning principles that we've been doing for some of our clients. We can apply that to what we're doing at HacWare, and it would help because the automation wouldn't require us to have to hire more people to actually implement the work. Like we could, with our same team, be able to build some sort of mining technology that can find the threats. We could use optical character recognition to be able to identify those threats and then build our data set. And then from there, we can dynamically generate these phishing campaigns, and it could be 100% automated where we don't need to hire another task. It was a no-brainer for us. So it just came from previous experience and seeing a problem that we knew could definitely benefit from that type of technology.
Okay. So let's talk about phishing, right?
Yeah.
What is it in then let's go into the product. What is HacWare's product?
Mm-hmm. Phishing is this act of when a bad actor, or what we call a hacker, but we don't like to use the term hacker because there's good hackers, but it's when a bad actor through email or through text or some sort of communication device impersonates as if they are a brand that you know, or they are impersonating a person that to try to get you to lure you into giving them some data that they need. And typically they do that over email. That's the number one way that phishing happens. And they're sending these emails with malicious links, or they have attachments in them, or their direct communication, but they're trying to lure you into trusting them to get data, to get you to wire funds to their account or some sort of Bitcoin address. It's really to lure you into trusting them so they can get out of you what they want.
Right. Okay. And I think historically it used to be that you'd see typos, you'd see certain things where you could eyeball it and say, this doesn't look right. This is probably not a legit email, but it's interesting because you see some and there's exact replica of a company's logo, perfect copy, everything. So these folks who launch phishing attacks seem to be really like sophisticated these days.
Yeah, there's multiple types of phishing attacks. So the one where you're mentioning, where they have misspelled words, typically those are phishing attacks, but you have something called spear phishing, where they have learned more about you, and they have it's an elevated attack where it's targeted towards you. And so they really try to make sure that the email doesn't have spelling attacks. It looks exactly like, if it's a brand, like the brand they're trying to impersonate. And what you may see is in the email address, it could be that the characters are transposed, or they're using what's called a homoglyph, where they're using, instead of a L, so it could be, instead of Tesoro AI, it could be tesoroa1.com in their email address. And it's just, they're trying to make it harder and harder for you to detect that they're a fraudulent entity.
And then the product you all are offering, what exactly is it doing?
Yeah, so HacWare is a cybersecurity education platform. It's a 100% automated platform that helps companies combat phishing attacks through dynamically created phishing simulations. So our product will try to hack you and your employees, and then it will try to determine what is it that you don't know from that hack, and send you a video that's 3 minutes or less to improve your behavior. So we're really focused on the human impact and educating them on the threats of phishing.
Interesting. So do you have, because I mean, obviously there's a large element of this is education. So do you have videos teed up where it's like, okay, here's where their weakness is. Let's send them video 9, right? Is that kind of how it works after you've learned what their weaknesses are?
Yes, once it does that skills gap analysis, then it will send a video in a topic that it thinks you need to learn. So we have videos across phishing, password security, data privacy. We have videos across a wide range of cybersecurity topics, but it takes it a step further. So if you have a vulnerability on password security, then it will send you a video on how to avoid reusing your password. It'll try to cover various topics in there because they're micro-sized, bite-sized, 3 minutes or less videos. So this is important to organizations, because even if everyone in the organization has a vulnerability where they could fall for creating a weak password, this product will send a curated video to that user. So not everyone's getting the same video at the same time. It really tries to assess what they don't know about that topic and send a video on that.
That's very interesting, right? Because I think about, there are formal trainings that people have, but these trainings tend to be an hour, 2 hours, and no one really wants to sit down and listen in training. But if you give me a 3 to 4 minute video after I've just been flagged for violating some policy, some cybersecurity policy at the company, yeah, I can watch a 3 to 4 minute video. That still gives me enough time to learn, but then get back to doing my regular job.
That's important. And that's the whole thing that differentiates us from our competitors. We know people don't want to sit through a 30-minute boring video. We know people really want to get back to work. And so again, with the phishing simulation, it brings awareness that they are vulnerable and that they aren't invincible. And so they really are now wanting to watch the video. And then the video is short. It will train them on things that they don't already know about cybersecurity. And so we have a 80% training completion rate on our product, which is typically, it's typically hard to get people to take training.
Yeah, I can imagine. Even when people elect to take training, like for some of the online platforms, course like the Coursera, for example, like the completion rate is the biggest challenge for those online platforms. So I don't know what their completion rate is, but I know it's not 80%. So that's interesting. And if we think about this artificial intelligence component, we know that there's always data that you need to collect to then train your algorithms. So where did that start for you? What kind of data were you collecting, and how were you able to acquire that data?
Yeah, that was an initial challenge for us because our product needs to learn from, two it needed two data sets. It needed one for how do I classify a email as a standard normal email, and how do I classify this content as a phishing message. And so there isn't like anywhere where you can go to these online data repositories and get a data set. So we had to build our own, and that's where the mining technology happened. So for us to find phishing messages, we had to go to where bad actors put that content. And
Mm,
so our product does some dark web monitoring. It looks on open source forums from when bad actors put those phishing messages there. And so once it collects that, and it took us to build our initial data set. It wasn't hard to find our initial data set. I would say it took us maybe a week to collect maybe a data set of 1 million roles. It took us maybe a week to be able to get that. And then we could get, if our clients would integrate with our email system, we could find the real valid emails. And so the problem was, how do we find phishing messages so our classification algorithm can get to the accuracy level that we were looking for. So it just took us having to go out, build a web scraping tool to find that.
yeah, interesting. So I'm curious about that kind of data labeling process, right?
Mhm.
But was that difficult for you, or was it made easier because you specifically went to look for bad emails that bad actors were sending, and then, well, just walk me through that the labeling process.
I think it took so much time just going through and cleaning the data, and so we had to, it was a manual process
Right.
where we had to look through. So we had this batch. When I said we had 1 million, we build a data set of 1 million records. We had to go through and sort of look through this content. All the content isn't in the same format for the most part, so we had to put it in the right format. So for us, the manual process of cleaning it and putting it all in the format that we needed for our product to be able to train on is what took, that was the most challenging part, because we knew once we had this data set, we we knew, like, playing around with the algorithm and trying to test the prediction of the results. We knew that part wasn't going to be as challenging as, like, we need to get good data in so we can
Right.
train and our outputs can be at a certain level, at a certain confidence level. So it was the cleaning part that was the most challenging.
Yeah, and I know there's different approaches to actually doing that, right? Like you could do it
Mhm,
all internally, you could
mhm,
crowdsource it, you could
mhm.
outsource it to a data labeling service. How did you think about how you all would tackle that?
Yeah, and I think you're bringing up some ideas that we didn't think about. Like, we did it all in house, and we weren't thinking about potentially outsourcing that. But that's something that, yeah, it just never crossed my mind. So I like that thought process, because we were just like, it looks like we know the problem, we know what we're looking for. Let's
Yeah.
just go ahead and do it. But it totally makes sense outsource that.
You're thinking about the pain you're going through just cleaning this
Yeah,
data. It's like, you know, I enjoy doing other things in my day, right?
yeah, definitely.
Okay, okay. And so that's interesting, right? Because now you're able to leverage these algorithms that you've trained on this data that you've collected. And in my mind, you're able to identify, or the AI is able to identify threats that perhaps or a human would see, but give you some insight into where people are going wrong. Was there some element where the system needed to understand the motions that someone would take that would indicate a cyber risk, right? So if I'm like an administrative, like what is an administrative assistant doing that we should be raising a flag on?
Yeah, we have about 14 different features that we look at to classify risky behavior. And one was, one of the simple ones was we would look at the frequency that a real phishing message that got past the email gateways, we would look at the frequency that these messages were open. And the idea of when you're looking on a web page and you're looking at the number of views that your audience has looked on a web page, we sort of looked at the phishing messages that got past the email gateways, the number of times that that message was open. We predicted that there's a high probability that they most likely are going to click on the link or open up the attachment. They haven't determined that this message is fraudulent. So the first indicator was they are continuously opening up this message. The other thing that we looked at is are the employees using their personal devices for their business devices for personal use? So is there a high volume of social media activity? And in the other thing, I'm trying to think of another. Oh, and then distraction. So we're able to use natural language processing to see if threat actors are trying to distract you in their messages. Like, do they have a high volume of content that is negative? And so negative emotion is one trick that bad actors use to try to get you to trust them and move forward with doing what they need you to do. And so we look at, okay, with these phishing messages that came through, is there a high level of what we call distraction, which negative emotion is what we're detecting. And then we look at the frequency of that message being open, as well as a number of other things to try to determine risky behavior and the user's susceptibility to falling for future attacks.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. And
That was a mouthful.
no, but super helpful. I'm curious about when you moved from a services business to a product company, then was there an initial team that kind of stuck with you throughout the entire time? Like, what did that initial team look like? What are the pieces that you had in place?
Yeah. So the initial team, so we were 100%, we had two areas where we focused. So we had some software engineers that focused on back-end development. We had a front-end engineer. We had someone who focused on the ethical hacking and risk assessment for the cybersecurity side.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also had someone on the data science side. So looking and able to use its statistics and combinatorics. So being able to look at the data and look at the algorithms, and that was all in-house from our service-based business.
Okay. Okay.
But once we moved to product, then we decided the team didn't when you're a service-based business, you have your labor is what you need to be able to close deals. And when you're a product-driven company, you really don't have to have as much of that labor as you need. So we went from a size of 20, we scaled down eventually to about a size of about 6 to 8 at one point, once we pivoted, because we had to make some hard decisions.
That is true. Yeah, I mean, and there, to your point, there were certain positions that, because of the change in the nature of the company, you needed to create a different makeup. So did you have a co-founder come on, or was this something that you were just able to, can you switch gears here? You were able to continue to captain the ship solo?
No co-founder. I was a serial entrepreneur. I knew what I needed to do to grow and scale the company, but I had a founding team, as I mentioned before. And yeah, we were able to, with making smart decisions, able to do a lot that many companies, we had so many I still have so many large companies asking us, how did you all build this? We're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on our engineering team, and they haven't came out with a fraction of what you all have done. So my founding team, they're committed to the vision, and we've been able to do a lot with a little.
Okay, got it. And what did that process look like? I mean, you mentioned you guys have got a product that folks who are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, they can't even reproduce, right? But I'm curious, once you finish the product, or at least the first version of the product, what was it like? What was the process getting that product deployed within the first, not even deployed. Let's talk about just acquiring the customer.
Yes, it is not easy. And HacWare is an early stage company. So we're going into our third year, and product market fit is I'm trying to find a nice way to say it. It's a journey. So the first thing we did was we went back and interviewed about 60 potential customers and really talk to them about, try to understand again their pain point, understand with regard to cybersecurity education, what is it that they're currently using, what is it that isn't working for you. And just from some of those initial conversations of trying to learn about them and learn about their pain points, they wanted to learn more about what we're doing at HacWare and how we could solve their problem. And so that was how we were able to get in front of some of the initial customers. And then it's about building trust, because with the AI solution and with the cybersecurity solution, you also have to build trust. And so once we got that initial interest, then we had to communicate to them about how we are going to protect their data, how we are going to help them combat phishing, and really walk them through that journey. We had to put things on our website. We have so much marketing around that, building trust. And then the other thing was, from what I knew from my other ventures, it's not, if you build it, they will come. It's not that. You have to really try to get in front of your customers and communicate to them the value, provide value, and provide how you could solve some of their solutions. So it took some time for us to really get to the point where we are now. Like, it started out with those initial conversations. It started with building trust. Then we had to really try to figure out how we can ramp up quickly and help these customers, because phishing attacks were like at 800% or more. And so that really helped us, but it was it was a journey. I mean, now we have companies throughout North America and Canada using us, but there was a time where they loved what we were doing, but the trust just wasn't there. And so it takes some time to really try to build that trust and show your users that you are capable of meeting their needs. And so we had to do some interesting things to win over their trust.
Yeah, very. And I imagine a lot of relationship building, and you kind of,
Yep.
and it sounds like you spent a lot of time, right? I mean, the product could solve the problem, but you spent a lot of time really fine tuning the message so you're communicating in a way that, one, develops that trust, and two, communicates the value that you all are providing.
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah, that's it. The value is what's most important. And with me being, although I've been a serial entrepreneur, I'm a technical founder and
Mm-hmm.
CEO. And so that's a challenge that a lot of technical founders have because I was the sales team. And as many early stage companies, the CEO is the sales team. But for technical founders, it's a different switch we have to switch our mind to. And so the value piece is something that is just super important. Understanding their value, their problem, and then how your solution can fit into that whole little scenario is what was key for us.
And you all eventually went and joined Techstars. How did that come about? What was the motivation for joining that accelerator?
Yeah, Techstars, we were a part of Techstars New York.
Okay.
And it came about, so we were a bootstrap company, as I mentioned before. And then we decided, okay, we have a product, we have a great team, we want to, we have a go to market potential strategy we want to experiment with. And so I think this would be a great opportunity for us to start thinking about a raise. As I mentioned before, I had no network as far as people around me that I could reach out to. I didn't have relationships with investors. And so I saw an opportunity for us to do that with Techstars. And one thing I love about Techstars, because we talked with Techstars, we had an interview with YC, but I love that Techstars immediately understood the vision and immediately knew that we were the team to solve that problem. So it was a no-brainer for us after we had that first meeting with Techstars, how excited they were about the product, how we knew that they could provide value to us. It was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, I imagine that they were able to give you some additional resource outside of just the funding, but like an understanding of how to run things operational, or at least connections to mentors who would be able
Yeah.
to help you with that.
Yeah, and that was a thing that I wasn't expecting, that I would be able to find mentors, people who have built massive companies, that's since I was a kid, that's all I wanted to do was build a massive company. So being in this environment where I'm around nothing but individuals who've done that and is willing to give me some insights on what to do and what not to do,
Mm-hmm.
that was super helpful. And like that was walking away from it, that was the most important piece, walking away from that. And I still work with some of those mentors today.
Great. Awesome. Okay. And I got a couple more questions for you. I know we got to be mindful of time here, but I'm curious, as you built this thing out, what has been your favorite tech tool to use inside of the organization?
Hmm. Favorite tech tool to use in the organization. We do a lot of scripting. I'm trying to think of something that's more innovative, but we do a lot of scripting. So like I love, and we use Python. So I love a lot of Python scripting when there's something that we want to potentially do and none of us want to do it. If there's a way that we can script it out, like that is what has really helped us to do a lot with the little resources, sort of finding those things to automate. But I also love Slack. I don't know.
Yeah, I heard Slack, Notion. Someone mentioned Gusto, the payroll tool. So
Okay.
I'm always curious what folks are using to help them stay sane.
No, I would say the reason why I say Slack is because I love there's this app or bot, Coffee Roulette.
Okay.
And I like that because that's a way for me to connect with my team. I'm so busy, and like to set up these one-on-ones is a great way to set up one-on-ones, but I'm also a part of other Slack channels, and I like signing up for Coffee Roulette on these other channels because in this digital world, it's been a great way to sort of network and have one-on-one time with other founders, other cybersecurity experts. So I like Slack's bots that we can use to sort of automate things like that, meetings.
Right. Okay. Last question. Who is someone who has inspired you? It could be in AI or it could be business in general.
Well, so I have, and you can't see, I guess you can see, I have a lot of artwork in my home of people who inspire me. And strong women are the source of my inspiration. And so just in the case of this artwork here, we have from the movie Up, we have Carl and Ellie. She's a young girl, but she is a strong, opinionated, driven girl about following your dreams. And so there's many women, Michelle Obama, there's many women that inspire me, and I want to be an inspiration to other women. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay. Well, Tiffany, thank you for taking time to sit here and walk us through your journey. It's been super helpful. I know there's a lot of gems dropped in terms of even just the process that you've gone through so far. Where's the best place to find you?
you can learn more about HacWare if you go to hacware.com, and you can find me on LinkedIn, Tiffany Ricks. And yeah, I've had a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Darius.
Absolutely. And remember, HacWare is HACWARE. No K, correct?
That's right. You got it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Tiffany. I look forward to having you back for an update.
Okay. Thank you so much, Darius.
Mm-hmm.